What's up, guys? Welcome back to Stop It, Karen. Today's absolutely delusional antagonist tried to use fake spiritual laws to steal my expensive RC truck, and she ended up eating a literal swamp sandwich. Let's get straight into the madness. So, I'm a software engineer, classic tech bro, but my absolute obsession is high-end, hobby-grade RC cars. I'm talking about a 30-pound, custom-built electric truggy that can hit 65 miles per hour. It is basically a flying cinder block. You need space for this thing. So I take it to a massive county park near my house. Way in the back, there is an old, unmaintained dirt BMX track. The RC gearheads and mountain bikers share it. It's packed clay, heavily rutted, and right next to a massive, naturally forming drainage basin that fills up with nasty, stagnant rainwater. It smells like rotting leaves and regret. It was a beautifully crisp Saturday morning. I set up my gear on the wooden driver's stand overlooking the track. The dirt was perfect. I was hitting the main straightaway, getting some serious air, completely in my zone. And then, the universe decided I needed a heavy dose of main character syndrome. I hear the crunching of gravel. Marching down the dirt path is a woman who looked like she took a wrong turn at a luxury wellness retreat. Let's call her Crystal. Crystal was wearing an immaculate, blindingly white designer athletic outfit. She was carrying a velvet yoga mat and a brass singing bowl. Now, the park has hundreds of acres of perfectly manicured, soft green grass. So, logically, where does she decide to set up? She unrolls her plush yoga mat directly across the landing zone of the biggest dirt jump on the track. It is a blind landing. It is objectively the most dangerous place to sit in the entire park. She sits down and starts hitting her bowl. Ding, ding. I put my controller down and leaned over the railing. Hey, excuse me, ma'am. You cannot sit right there. It is a blind landing zone. It is super dangerous. She slowly turned her head, glared up at me, and marched over to the bottom of the driver's stand. Excuse me? I am trying to curate a space of profound terrestrial healing, and your aggressive vocal tones are completely shattering my aura. Profound terrestrial healing. Guys, she was sitting on a pile of dirt covered in old tire rubber. Look, this is an active dirt track used for high-speed bikes and RC cars. If someone comes over that hill, they are going to land directly on top of you. You really need to move for your own safety. Her eyes narrowed, and the entitlement began to leak out of her pores. The grass over there does not have the correct geomagnetic resonance. I specifically divined this exact location. And furthermore, under the international law of spiritual eminent domain, this plot of earth is currently a protected wellness sanctuary. The international law of spiritual eminent domain. She literally just mashed together words she heard on a podcast. Yeah, that's not a real thing, I said. This is a public county park. It is literally unsafe for you to sit there. Oh, big mistake. The wellness guru vanished, and the final boss Karen emerged. Are you mansplaining the law to me? I pay property taxes in this county. I am officially declaring a public nuisance and vibration ordinance against you. You are to pack up your little toy and vacate my sanctuary immediately. A public nuisance and vibration ordinance? Yeah, no, I am not leaving, I told her, picking up my controller. I warned you about the danger. I am going back to driving. I turned my truck on, dropped it onto the track, and hit the throttle. The truck launched forward, kicking up a rooster tail of dry, dusty clay. I deliberately drove it on the lower section, far away from her, but the sheer speed and noise were clearly enraging her. Stop that right now! The electromagnetic frequencies from your machine are scrambling my chakras. You are actively committing a biological assault via earth elements. You are weaponizing the dirt against me. Weaponizing the dirt? I completely ignored her, doing laps. But Karen could not handle being ignored. She stomped right into the middle of the active track, standing like a crossing guard with her hands straight out. "I am initiating a citizen's asset repossession for emotional damages," she screamed. "Halt this vehicle immediately! I am impounding this machine until you compensate me!" A citizen's asset repossession? My truck was currently barreling toward her at 40 miles an hour. I immediately slammed the brakes. The truck skidded wildly, coming to a complete halt about 5 feet away from her pristine white sneakers. She smiled a deeply terrifying, triumphant smirk. She actually believed her stop hand motion magically forced my vehicle to halt. "Exactly," she sneered. "Now, I am going to take this mechanical menace and throw it in the trash." She started walking toward my truck, bending down. "Do not touch my property," I warned her. "That truck is worth $2,000. If you touch it, it is grand theft." "It is not theft, it is civil forfeiture." Before her manicured fingers could grab the wing, I gently squeezed the throttle. The truck zipped forward exactly 3 feet, darting right out from under her hands. She grasped empty air. She looked down, confused. She lunged for it again. I tapped the reverse trigger. The truck zipped backward 3 feet. She missed again. "Give it to me!" she yelled. And so began the greatest game of keep-away in human history. She started walking after it. I kept inching it away. Now she was jog-walking, her canvas tote bag bouncing aggressively. She had developed absolute tunnel vision on my truck. Now, remember the geography. The dirt track sits right next to a massive natural drainage basin. Because it had rained, this basin was a deep, stagnant, aggressively foul-smelling retention pond. The edges were slick, steep clay dropping off into thick, black mud and neon green algae. I was steering my truck along the outer edge of the track. I wasn't intentionally leading her into the swamp, I was just driving away. But Karen was tired of jogging. She decided to sprint diagonally across a small embankment to cut the truck off. But to get over that embankment, she had to step onto the steep, downward-sloping edge of the drainage ditch. It was long weeds hiding wet, incredibly slick, packed clay. She planted her pristine white sneaker firmly onto the slick clay to push off. The second she put her weight on it, the friction dropped to 0. Her foot shot forward like a professional ice skater. For one glorious second, she was entirely horizontal, hovering parallel to the earth. And then, gravity collected its debt. Thud! She slammed down hard onto her back and began to slide. The embankment acted like a slip and slide. She started tobogganing down the hill head first toward the swamp, letting out a horrific, high-pitched scream. She slid 20 feet down the bank, tearing up mud and weeds. And at the bottom, the glorious green algae basin. Splash! She hit the stagnant pond water like a torpedo. She plunged in waist deep. A massive geyser of black mud and green pond scum erupted into the air and rained back down on her. I instantly took my finger off the throttle. The entire park went dead silent, except for the squelching sounds of the mud and the furious breathing of the Karen at the bottom of the pit. She just sat there, half submerged in the swamp. Her international law of spiritual eminent domain had not suspended the laws of physics. When she finally stood up, her immaculate designer outfit was ruined. She had a thick stripe of deep black mud running down her back. Her hair was plastered flat, dripping with neon green algae. She tried to take a step toward the bank, but the mud was like a vacuum seal. There was a loud, vulgar shoop sound. Her foot popped out of the mud, but her expensive white sneaker did not. She was now standing in a drainage ditch, covered in algae, missing one shoe. She looked up at me. The sheer, overwhelming weight of the public humiliation had finally broken her spirit. Excuse me, ma'am," I called out. "Do you still want to perform that citizen's asset repossession? Because I can drive the truck closer if it helps." She let out a guttural sound of pure rage, abandoned her shoe to the depths of the mud, and began the undignified process of crawling on her hands and knees up the slippery clay embankment. She didn't even go back for her velvet yoga mat. She just started doing a squelching, limp run toward the parking lot. And that, my friends, is exactly why you never try to invent fake laws to steal someone else's property. Sometimes, all you need is a beautifully placed patch of wet clay, a 30-pound RC truck, and the unforgiving justice of a stagnant swamp. All right, guys, that is the story for today. If you enjoyed this beautiful masterpiece of instant karma, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. What is the absolute most unhinged excuse a Karen has used to try and ruin your day? Until next time, stay safe, keep chilling, and seriously, stop it, Karen!